You are listening to Hit Play, Not Pause, a Feisty Menopause podcast for active, performance-minded women. I am your host, Celine Yeager. Each week, I bring you advice from athletes, scientists, researchers, and other experts to help you feel and perform your best, no matter what your hormones are doing. This show is a production of Live Feisty Media. Hello, strong, feisty women. I hope you all are well. So once again, I would like to begin by saying a big thank you to all the wonderful women who came up to me at Unpaved last weekend, or maybe 2 weekends ago by the time you hear this, which is a big gravel race and event in the Susquehanna River Valley here in Pennsylvania that my husband puts on each year. And it is always incredible to meet you and to hear how this show and this community has really changed your lives. So thank you for the love. Thank you for the hugs. It really makes this work so worthwhile. All right. Speaking of community and changing lives, I have a really wonderful conversation for you this week with professional off-road cyclist and coach Serena Bishop Gordon. At 46, Serena has redefined what she thought was possible physically, mentally, emotionally, on the bike, you name it. From second place at this year's Unbound XL, which she did those 360 miles in 22 hours, 19 minutes, and 56 seconds, to multiple podiums at the Oregon Trail Gravel Grinder, Serena shares how she has learned to really let go of limits, release outcomes, and lean into curiosity. And I'll say that that part of this conversation really, really landed with me, and I hope it lands the same way with you. We dive into the mental shift that she believes has unlocked her best performances, how underfueling can mimic perimenopause, and all the ways that midlife women can get faster and go longer than they ever thought possible. She also spends a minute or two breaking down what women can expect during Feisty's winter training for Cyclists program, which is a 16-week program that she is coaching with us starting this December. I'll put a link to that in the show notes so you can check it out for yourself and sign up. I'll say that we are really stoked to have her because Serena just gets it, all of it, as we have seen through just her racing and her coaching, but also the organization that she founded called Special Blend Gravel, which is a coaching and community building organization that really uplifts women through camps and coaching and community, and importantly takes a person first, athlete second philosophy that centers joy and balance and connection. And man, that's what we all need so much more of right in this moment in time. Serena is a gem of a human, and I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I did. All right, before we get to it, give us a follow at Feisty Menopause on Instagram and Facebook. Come into our private Hit Play Not Pause Facebook group and join 36,000 other women just like yourself. Head into those show notes and sign up for my free weekly Feisty 40 Plus newsletter with all the training and nutrition news you can use. And thank you, as always, for those continued great reviews and 5-star ratings. If you like the show, drop it some love wherever you get your podcasts. Share it with a friend. It really does help the show continue to grow. Finally, very quick thanks to MIDI Health for their support of the show. We couldn't be here without our sponsors. And I've heard great things from so many of you about how MIDI is helping you get the care you need. So thank you, MIDI, for your support. All right, enough of me. Let's have a few words about those awesome sponsors and get on with the show. All right, Serena, welcome to Hit Play Not Pause. It's really great to connect with you because I have recommended many a woman to your services, and I'm not sure we've talked much like IRL, as they say.
I would agree. I feel like you and I operate in very concentric circles, but don't have a ton of like direct overlap. So I'm excited about being able to chat with you today.
Excellent. So, just to level set, you're 46, is that correct? I was trying to figure out how old you are, actually.
Yeah, almost 47.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to talk to you about your life as a coach, but also your life as an athlete, because you have a really rich background in being an athlete. You still are an athlete. You raced, I know, some of the same races that I have done, the notoriously arduous Cape Epic in South Africa, Breck Epic, UCI cyclocross races, really some stellar performances on gravel that I'd like to dive into. When did you get into bike racing yourself?
I began bike racing in 2008. I was a runner
Mm.
prior to being a cyclist, and we moved to Bend, Oregon in 2000 and in 2006. And it sounds a little strange now, but I really couldn't find a community of runners here, and there was a strong community of cyclocross racers. And I had no idea what cyclocross was, and a friend said, "Oh, you're a runner, you'll be good at it."
Yeah,
Um,
because a lot of
and
times we just shoulder our bike and run around the course for an hour.
right. It was often very muddy.
Yeah.
And so she lent me a bike and introduced me to cyclocross, and then I acquired bike disease that I haven't been cured of. Um and I also was really, really fortunate to have some amazing mentors and people that just sort of shepherd me in. So started with cyclocross and then recognized that I needed to work on my skills and started mountain biking, and um the combination of that and the dirt and gravel roads we have around Bend, I ended up doing a lot of gravel riding before we had gravel bikes, like so many of us. Um, and now I primarily ride and race off road. Gravel racing has become the predominant uh, discipline in the last few years, just because that's
Yeah,
where things are headed.
makes total sense. So you are, speaking of gravel racing, like the queen of the Oregon Trail gravel grinder. You finished second in 2019, 2021, and 2024, with like a really killer performance in a stacked field. So talk a little bit about that. I do think the mid 40s can be a real powerful time for those kind of ultra endurance events. I'm wondering what your thoughts are there.
I would agree. I think from both a strength and power standpoint, but also mindset.
Mm,
Um, the longer I've raced, the older I've gotten, the more I've honed my mental game. In 2023, I had a coaching change, which really was such a great infusion for me. Don't think I'd still be racing if it wasn't for my coach, Chris McGovern, who I started working with in end of 2022.
why's
Um,
that?
um, I think prior to that, I was so focused. My previous coach was amazing, and I worked with him for over 10 years, but it became very monotonous. I was doing the
Mm,
same stuff every year, and it was
I get that.
very data driven, which is very important. But I got to a point where I needed some new stimulus and new ways of thinking about process and success, and really shift away from outcome and enjoy the process. And you mentioned Oregon Trail 2024, and I would say I've done Oregon Trail 6 times. I've done it every year. I love that race. But in 2024, I went in just with curiosity, and the field was deeper than it had ever been. And I had I had process goals. I didn't have outcome expectations, and it really changed the game for me. Um, and I would say that it was my best performance in that race. The last stage was magic, when all those things just come together, and the eating contest that has been transpiring for 5 days, you're really crushing that. You are excited and curious and energetic about the fact that you're racing in your backyard. You've done the physical training, of course, and yeah, it was one of those really special days on the bike. But I think most of it was mental and not physical. And I think as we get older and our training changes, we have to think about ways to get faster that aren't just about making more power in the form of wattage. And that can be skills, and that can also be the mental game. So the older I've gotten, the more I feel like I've taken all the pieces of bike racing and put them to use versus just focusing on like, what's the power meter saying?
Right. So Oregon Trail, 5 days, six
Correct.
days, 5 days.
Five.
What was
Yeah, five.
what are the process goals? If you could just give me a flavor of what that looks like when you're talking about putting together these process goals and what a
Mhm.
difference that made.
I think in a 5-day race, it's a little bit different than in a 1-day race, but nutrition is always going to be key. So both fueling on the bike, but then off the bike recovery, ensuring that you're really focusing on your carbohydrates, resting between stages, not spending your time running around. And I mean, there's a community event, which is a community portion of that event that's really important. But in this case, like just focusing on your recovery is a big piece, I think. And those are very controllable, right? Like, am I fueling well? Am I recovering well? Am I staying hydrated? And then in the race, you can only control what you do. So am I working as hard as I can in this moment? Is this a place that, from a technical standpoint, I have an advantage? Um, how am I making the most of that advantage? Uh, Staying positive the whole time, right? You're going to have negative peaks and valleys. You always do. But how do you pull yourself out of that and recognize that everyone is going to be having moments of suffering, and you just have to work through that? So, really focusing internally. And I said this earlier, but staying curious. And that's sort of been this motto for me in the last few years of like, we do not know what we're capable of. We have to be curious about what that is. And when we allow ourselves to not put boundaries on what we're capable of, we surprise ourselves over and over again. So those are some of the process goals that I really just tried to embody throughout that entire race.
So what does that look like in practice? What are you telling yourself to be curious about?
I think there are times when the tempo gets hard, right?
Mm.
Like the pace picks up, you're on a climb, you're like, I don't know. I'm not confident that I can hold on to this power for the next 15 minutes of this climb, but I can do it at this moment. So maybe I can do it for a next moment, and maybe I can do it for the next moment. And so just being curious of what you're capable of, and not being afraid of what might happen in the future. But in this moment, I can do it. And I'm going to keep doing that. I'm going to keep asking myself moment after moment, is this okay? Is this okay? Yep. Okay. Keep going. Keep going. So that's one. And then also not being intimidated by the start list. In 2024, I looked at the starting list of the race and I said to my husband, if I finish in the top 10, that would be great. And he was like, stop speaking that way. Like,
Mm.
you're looking at these names and you are discrediting yourself. And so just staying curious of not looking at a start list before the race has even started and saying, well, I think I'll finish behind this person and I think I'll finish in front of this person. Just go and give the best that you can on that given day, or in this situation, every day for 5 days, and see what happens.
Yeah, that's awesome. Are you part of the high carb revolution?
I would say yeah. And I have had, yes, I am. Not the highest carb revolution.
Right.
But yeah, I am a proponent of increased carbohydrates while competing and training on your bike and on your feet and in any discipline of endurance sport.
Is there a number you shoot for?
Ideally I would say while racing or doing hard efforts, like, oh, I'll shoot for 70 to 80, but I probably get closer to 65 to 70. I really think that this idea of more is better has its limitations, because we are all different sizes and we generate different amounts of power. And the person that is generating 400 watts for an hour is going to be able to take in and process and utilize more carbohydrates than someone who is making 150 watts per hour.
Right.
So there's some nuances there, but yeah,
Yeah,
I've
for
found
sure.
that like that 65 to 80 grams an hour is something that for long duration efforts I can tolerate. It's consistent. I don't have GI issues, and I can also carry that much on
Mhm.
my person. And that's another consideration because you only have so much space.
100%. I know I'm laying out all this stuff in the morning going like, "Okay, how? This goes in this pocket?" It's a long it's
Right.
a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
So given the nature of the show, I have to ask, have you entered the menopause transition, perimenopause, anything yet? Do you know?
Mm. Well, I thought I had,
Oh.
and then I recognized actually I was just underfueling. Some of the symptoms, brain fog, low energy, not recovering fast enough, or as fast as one would want. Some of those same symptoms are not getting in enough fuel in your daily nutrition. And so, as far as I know, I have not yet crossed into that transition, and it's coming soon, I'm sure. But I will say, working with a lot of women athletes that have, um, I feel more equipped than ever. But you never know how you're going to respond. Everybody's unique. Um, but yeah, so far not. I have not, but we'll see. I have talked to my mom about her experience, and she's like,
Mhm.
"Oh yeah, I don't know. It just kind of happened." And I was like, well, that's either a really good sign because sometimes the way that you move through menopause, perimenopause is hereditary. And then I thought, or maybe it was just, her generation didn't talk about it or didn't think about it
They weren't
as
thinking about the
much.
same way. Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see.
Has your training evolved at all over as you move into your past in the mid-40s?
Yeah. Yes, it has. I think I have noticed it takes me a little more time to recover between
Mm.
hard efforts. My training has also evolved because I've moved from that short, sharp cyclocross racing to more endurance. And in 2025, I spent about 6 months focusing solely on Unbound XL, and that training looked very different than some of the 2 hour cross country mountain bike races that I had done previously. So a combination of goals and demands of events changing, and then also as I get older, just ensuring that I'm doing the recovery that I need, fueling better, getting off the bike and having my recovery drink, and then having a meal and all that little stuff, and coupled with going to PT and doing my strength and going to acupuncture. And I feel like the amount of time of like the prehab and rehab compared to the time I'm actually riding my bike has changed a little bit. But man, it's amazing when you actually commit to going to the gym and doing your PT and having a daily routine of stretching. I would say that my body feels stronger and better than it's ever felt. Um,
What does that regimen look like when you say PT? Do you have specific
mm,
uh,
mm,
injuries you're trying to avoid, or because I don't think most people talk in those
mm,
terms. Like I'm going to go to
yeah,
the gym and do my PT. They'll go and do their strength routine. But what is
yeah. So in 2023, in the fall of 2022 and in the spring of 2023, I had a pretty severe adductor tear
Mm.
uh, from I increased my running in the fall, and my glutes and my hips weren't strong. And I was able to compensate for a while. And then as the mileage got higher, I just had a lot of imbalances because when we're on the bike and we're not thinking about any motion except that very singular plane, we get some deficiencies in our other muscles. And so I worked with a couple different PTs until I ended up with a running specialist. And she was like, I know exactly what happened, and this is how we can solve it. And we've been working together, I would say on and off, but I see her every about month. And my PT or strength has evolved. I call it PT, but it's really like very specific strength work to
Okay.
ensure that my glutes, my hamstrings, my hips, all of that, my pelvic floor are strong to support all the activities that I want to do.
That makes tons of sense. So
Yeah.
you mentioned Unbound and your focus on that, which
Mhm.
100% paid off. You came in second to Heather Jackson at the XL in a time of 22 hours, 19 minutes, and 56 seconds, which beat the course record along with Heather.
Yeah.
Is it a little underwhelming when you beat the course record, but the person in front of you has also beat the course record? Did you feel any kind of,
Yeah, I was elated. I was so elated.
okay,
Yeah. It's a little bit like, of course, you want to win and you're that close to getting the course record and someone beats you, but sharing that with Heather was pretty cool. She's a
yeah.
phenomenal athlete. So,
So going into it, I was watching some videos and reading up. You said you'd be a different person on the other side, and then when you were done, you echoed that in a blog, saying that you're
mhm.
not the same person as the when you finished as the one who started. What did you mean by that?
um, XL was really a test of mental fortitude and tenacity.
Let's tell people
And
how long it is. It's 350,
three 360 this year it was
360.
360. Yeah, so 360
It's
miles,
a long way.
the majority of which was gravel. It was 20,000 feet of climbing. And it starts on Friday afternoon before Unbound 200 and finishes, well, 22 and a half hours later for me. It was the first time I had done an event that went through the night. So you're riding with lights. When I didn't had done some training in the dark, I felt very prepared in some ways, but I'd never done this. And I did not know what it would feel like. And I had not done a race that I didn't know if I could finish or didn't have some concept of like, okay, at hour 6, I'm going to feel this way. Like, and so I recognized that I needed to let go of all the constructs of time and distance. And I couldn't
Oh,
think about
wow.
the fact that the race was 360 miles or that it was going to take me a whole day. And the process of letting go of all of those like constructs of this is how I feel when I ride my bike for this long, or this is what I will feel like at 3 o'clock in the morning. And when you ask the question, like, how did I come out the other end as a changed person or what changed? My concepts of what is possible and what the mind can do have been blown out of the water. And if someone said to me, Serena, that was all a dream, you actually didn't do that, I might believe them because it was such an out of body experience. I never looked at the elapsed time. I never looked at time of day. I never looked at how many miles I had left to go. I looked at the map, my average speed, and my current speed. And that was all. And it was simply my computer would beep at me when I needed to eat. It would beep at me when I needed to drink. And other than that, I was just riding my bike. And so being able to let go of what the concepts of time and our capabilities is something that really changed for me. And now this fall, I've been doing some long adventure rides. I've been doing a bunch of running. And I don't feel this limit of like, well, can I do that? It's more like, oh my gosh, I get to go and try to do this. And I'm going to have this amazing experience. And you also can't think about like the, the, with Unbound, it was such a huge undertaking, like 360 miles. And people ask me, what's your longest training ride? And I'd say like, oh, 120 miles. And like, well, how are you going to ride 360? And it was like, you can't answer that question. You're just like, well, I'm just going to do it. So now I feel like if someone said like, hey, Serena, do you want to go ride 300 miles? I would just say, yes, let's do that. And it's not, yes, the physical training, but the mental piece is so much greater for me with that particular event and the way that I view challenges or adventures moving forward. And I hope I can hold on to that because it's a very empowering feeling.
I am very intrigued by everything you just said. And I'm curiosity, if that is a sea change from how you might have been before, or if you are subtly like that. And I ask that question
Mm.
because I think that I certainly have a tendency to look down and be like, my God, I've gone 10 miles and I have 350 to go. Like letting go of the concept of like that idea and that concept sounds so genuinely empowering. And I'm wondering if that was already in you or if that is something that was purposely and not necessarily easily uh,
Mhm.
harvested.
I love that question, Celine. And I think that the answer is the latter. I'm a very much a planner. I want to know how things are going to unfold. And through the training process and working with my coach and with the performance lab at Goo Energy, this idea of letting go of the plan, prepare as best you can, but know that things are going to happen. And like the whole process is problem solving. And so there were a few things that my coach would throw at me. Like on a Saturday, he would text me and say, so tonight at 11 o'clock, I want you to go for a ride. And then I want you to ride for 4 hours and go home and sleep, and then get up on Sunday and do the workout that's at Training Peaks.
Wow.
Okay. So I had to let go of some of that, like, oh, what is everything going to look like? Um, I it must be in me somewhere,
Yeah.
because now I'm embracing it. And like in trail running, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go from point A to point B. And I don't look at the distance covered until I get real tired and I'm getting close to the end, and then I'll look. But it feels very liberating to um, be less concerned with the metrics and more concerned with how are you feeling in that moment. Does that answer your question?
Oh yeah. No, it definitely
Yeah.
does. I'm gonna work on that myself. I
It
I could use more
Sleep,
of that
it
in
is
my
the
life
coolest.
broadly.
It is one of the coolest feelings. Um, and yesterday I did a point to point trail run, and it just feels amazing to be like, oh my gosh, you get to the end, and wear a GPS watch. I know how far I went, I know how fast I went. But you look at it at the end, you're like, how did I just do that? That's phenomenal. Like, wow. And just feel so grateful for the body and the mind that can carry you under your own power from point to point. And I think for a long time, I took that for granted. And now I feel an overwhelming sense of gratitude almost every time I get to go out, whether it be on my bike or on my feet, and just like be in space.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Like I always get something out of every show. That's always my goal, but that's a real gem right there. I'm gonna absorb that one. So let's talk a bit about your coaching itself. When did you become a coach?
So I started coaching in 2017 officially. Um, I went to a training camp with my current coach, and I think it was, yeah, 2017. And I observed all these people at different levels of cycling fitness, at different stages in their lives, and recognized that like each individual person needed a unique plan to help them meet their goals within their lifestyle and framework. And so I had a couple of, again, really great mentors in my coaching journey. And then through their help and learning some of the nuts and bolts and basics of the way that they built training plans, I kind of developed my own ideas. And they're not outrageous, they're still based on the tenets of progressive training and periodized blocks. But recognizing, especially for older people and women in particular, like we cannot train like the 27-year-old guy. And so much of the research and the training books are all about this very formulaic training system that works for young dudes and does not work for moms, women, old, as we get older, we have more demands on our time, we need more recovery. The 3 weeks on, 1 week off thing isn't awesome for a lot of people. And as we get older, it takes us longer to recover, but it also takes us longer to get back up. So if you take a week off and
Mm,
you're only uh to then regain that fitness takes a lot longer if you're training 8 or 10 hours a week versus if you have 20 to 30 hours a week to train.
right. That
So
makes so much sense.
um and I also feel like every single athlete, it needs a unique training plan. I read about coaches that are like, oh, I have 80 athletes. I'm like, uh that's not the way that I like to coach. um and people have diverse goals, they have diverse time availability, um, work, children, all those things. And then of course we're like, oh, and you need to lift weights and you need to be doing this. And so how do you build a plan that meets athletes where they are to help them achieve reasonable goals? And looking at things not just for one season, but year after year as people progress in their in their cycling journey, and you could be 50 years old but be very immature with your training, and you
Hmm.
could be 40 years old and be very mature, and those training plans are going to look super different even if they're training for the exact same event.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so along those lines, I had Lisa Congdon on the show, who's
mm,
also a friend of mine, a friend of Feisty's,
yeah.
and she really credited your coaching and understanding of what
Mm-hmm.
she was going through in midlife and into the perimenopause transition with really having
Mm-hmm.
some breakthrough performances. And was that part of the process there, is tailoring her the traditional sort of cycling plan to what she needed in that time of her life?
100%. Working with Lisa has been amazing. I think I've also learned and grown a lot as a coach through working with her, because any coaching relationship, in my opinion, has to be built on really good communication and back and forth. But what we determined was, for her, strength is really important. So she's in the gym 3 days a week. Um, she is an endurance athlete and wants to do long gravel rides. So she needs to make sure she had endurance in her schedule. However, she's also in her late 50s. So, how do we make sure we're keeping up on the higher intensity work, the sprinting, the VO2? And so, developing a plan that was relatively consistent week over week. She doesn't have huge peaks and she doesn't have huge valleys, unless we're really getting ready for a race. But the majority of the year is relatively stable. However, we're gradually moving up and to the right with her power, her hours, her, and I'm not her strength coach. She has a separate strength coach, but her ability to lift heavy. She just tested last week and had some of her best numbers ever. And this is 11 months after double knee replacement surgery. So she is she's crushing it, and she's an example of doing all the little things that really keeps her healthy and thriving. And to see her continue to get stronger from a power standpoint, but she's also really dove into her skills and concentrating and focusing on improvement there. And then the mental piece again, like, how do you get faster? Well, you can the goal is to move from point A to point B with more speed, and you can do that in a using a bunch of different tools. And so really looking at, what does her toolbox look like, and it isn't just what power are you making out on the trainer. That's obviously a big piece of it, but yeah, so working with Lisa has been amazing, and I think listening to her, learning alongside her, and then testing and trying things out. What works, what doesn't, and recognizing that if you aren't recovering from your training, you're not getting a benefit out of the next training session. More is not always better. And just because you can do something doesn't mean that your body can absorb it. And
Mm.
so pulling back at any sign of fatigue um, has been also really helpful, and helping her learn what that feels like, and when is it okay to push a little and when is it like, okay, we need to pull back so that you're ready for the next thing.
Do you give full off days, or does every day have a little something to it?
Yeah, we have full off days.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lisa has, for Lisa specifically, she has one day totally off, and then she has 2 days of just strength. But she
Yeah.
does train on her off the bike days because she's lifting really heavy.
Right.
Um, so yeah, and then she typically rides 4 days a week.
Yep. So you are also the founder of Special Blend Gravel. So you have like women's camps, coaching clinics. How did those come about, and what do you think women get out of being in those environments among other women?
Mm-hmm. So Special Blend Gravel came out of the pandemic, really.
Mm.
And this idea of bringing women together and elevating their cycling. So there's a lot of learn how to ride a bike clinics and like intro to bikes, and but what's the next thing to keep women in the sport and
Yes.
really elevate their skills once they've got the basics down? And that was the concept of Special Blend Gravel camps. Chad Sperry from Breakaway
Mm.
Promotions, who puts on the Oregon Gravel series, I was talking to him about this idea, and he was like, well, let's do it. And originally it was going to be a camp in conjunction with a spring race called Gorge Gravel. And we did 2 days, and it was awesome. And I thought that was it. Like, cool, we did it. That's fun. And I walked away and thought, oh, there's something here. Like, this was amazing. And people like, when's the next one? So I was working full time. I was racing almost full time. And I also recognized that this was something that needed nurturing. So in the spring of 24, I created Special Blend LLC. So now it's its own business. Um, and quit my other job and like full time investing in development of women gravel cycling, teaching skills, encouraging this community of women to come to camps, but also travel together to races and train. And I mean, Celine, one of the most exciting things is when you see a picture from a race that includes 3 women who don't live in the same place, who didn't know each other before Special Blend Camp, but they met at camp and they decided to go to Unbound or to Mid South or to Oregon Trail because they knew the other ones were going to be there. And we just had fall camp 2 weekends ago where we had 19 campers and 8 staff. And it's the most soul filling thing I've ever done in my life. To watch these women just have a small nudge and a few tips, and all of a sudden they're like, oh my gosh, I am railing these corners, or I'm riding this technical, rocky terrain. And then they step out with this new confidence and bring others along with them. And so I am the founder of Special Blend Gravel, but the community has taken on a whole personality of itself. And so we do camps, we do clinics, we have an endurance coaching arm, and yeah, it's great. I love it.
Yeah, there's no question about the magic that happens when you bring women together like that. We see it every time we bring women together in community for whatever it is, whether it's a strength clinic or we went to Girona this spring and had a women's gravel camp. And the same thing as you were saying, a little group of them were like, let's go and do this event together when we get home. And
Mm-hmm.
we're encouraging each other. One of them quit her job and became a bike mechanic. And I thought, right?
Awesome.
It was so phenomenal. And it is, that's where it really does make a difference in people's lives. You can see it in action.
Yeah. I had someone at the end of this last camp say she was like really on the fence about coming, was really nervous. She's like, this has been the best weekend of my whole life. And like to know that there is an impact on someone that great by an event that you're a part of just feels so powerful. And
Yeah,
yeah, it's
I
cool.
love that.
There's so much power, collective power that we have to share. And I think by creating a space that is for women, to empower each other, to lift each other up, it's like I am constantly reassured that there is a need and a desire for that. So it feels great to be a part of a time where we have that enthusiasm.
I 100% agree. So that segues super well into what you're doing with us this winter with Feisty and the women's cycling group. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah, I'm super excited.
Winter training camp? Is that what we're
Our
calling
winter training
it?
program. So this is a 16-week training plan for women. You can come in at different levels. So depending on how much time an athlete has to dedicate to this training program. But in addition to like the planned workouts that will be uploaded into a Training Peaks calendar for your weekly workouts, there's also going to be a lot of education and resources available through the program. Everything from coaches Q&A, bike setup, how to use your Zwift trainer, um, mental strategies, strength, nutrition, going through
Group
the
rides?
perimenopause. What?
Group rides?
Group rides. Yep, we're going to do some group rides on
Okay.
Zwift.
Okay.
Keep people motivated. There'll be the option for inside versus outside weekend stuff. So if you're a Nordic skier and you're like, I want to be a part of the program, but I love skiing on Saturdays, great. We want that to be flexible and to meet the needs of the riders. The real goal of this is to get more women to have a progressive and attainable training program that gets them through the winter and sets them up with a great foundation for whatever they want to do spring and summer. And so often people are like, I don't need a coach in the winter. I'm not doing any racing. And I was like, actually, that's when you need a coach the most. Um, and I think that this is such an amazing opportunity for women who are curious again, like, oh, let's dip my toe into some more structure, or they've had structured training and it's lapsed, or they're just like, I need some motivation for the winter, or I need a change of pace. The whole plan is to meet women where they are, to help them feel like they've achieved every workout. Like, I've achieved that. I'm laying the bricks for the next week, the next month, the next season, and then hopefully back to going to events and creating community. Um, this spring and summer, the idea would be that we can meet up at some of the gravel races that
Mm.
we're all attending, and I think we have people who are part of the Feisty team and are going to be part of this winter training plan coaching staff from all over the country. And so it'll be exciting to be able to connect with the folks that you've met through the program, wherever you are.
Yeah. And I stepped on you a little bit, but there are plenty of educational sessions. You mentioned perimenopause, nutrition, bikes,
Mhm.
all that stuff. So yeah, that's
Yeah. Oh, mechanic. We'll do some basic
mm,
mechanics stuff too. Yeah. The idea too is like one of the biggest limiting factors for women to get out and ride is like, oh, I don't know how to change a flat tire, or what if my chain breaks, or I always ride with so and so and they carry the fix a flat equipment. And so learning how to navigate with your cycling computer
yeah.
and do basic roadside repairs can reduce a lot of barriers, to feel confident to get out, invite your friends to get out, once the weather gets better and we can adventure.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's really exciting. When does it start?
It will kick off December 1st
Okay.
and 16 weeks from then. So the first week will really be a lot of onboarding. Hey, do you know how to set up your indoor trainer? And do you know
Yeah.
how to read a workout? And do you know what it feels like to ride at a tempo effort? And then we'll just build on that with workouts and education throughout the winter.
That's great. That's great. I can't tell you because when I signed up for my first Ironman training thing and it was just online, I it led me to hire a coach because I looked at the swimming workout and it looked like hieroglyphics. I was like, I have no idea what any of this means. I have no idea what I'm supposed to be doing with this. Like, what is this? So but I'm sure whoever wrote that was like, of course, because I didn't grow up on the swim team. I just had no
Yeah.
idea what any of that. I knew how to swim, that was it, but I had no idea. So taking people through some of that basic stuff is so big.
And we don't realize that we speak a different language sometimes.
Totally. Totally.
And I think, again, creating a space where people can ask questions. There's not any bad questions. And if you have a question, somebody else probably also has the same question and is afraid to ask it. So, um, yeah, wanting to just provide as much information as we can to set people up for success, to enjoy whatever kind of cycling they're going to be doing. So you can be a gravel cyclist, a mountain biker, a triathlete, someone who just wants to be a more robust and well-rounded athlete. Like, this isn't unique to gravel cycling or to mountain biking. If you're a time trialist and want to join us, great. I think the fundamentals are the same.
I would agree. Is there anything that you'd like to leave our audience with, or anything we haven't talked about that you wanted to
Mm.
mention about anything, but specifically just this time of life and pursuing your goals
Mhm.
during this time of life?
I think you should dream big, set goals that are a little bit scary, and then give yourself plenty of time to achieve them. Um, we overestimate what we can do in a week, and we underestimate what we can do in a year. So if
Totally.
you have a goal and it's 18 months out, write the goal on the mirror, on a piece of paper, whatever, and just start chipping away at it. I think we are so much stronger and are capable of so much more than we give ourselves credit for. And then ask for support.
Mm,
People love to help each other, and it is incredibly motivating both to be supported and support. So
yeah.
big goals, lean into your community.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Serena. It was really, really a pleasure talking to you and getting to know you here.
Thanks, Celine. Yeah, I'm excited to work with you this winter on the winter training program too.
Oh, be great. Well, that's our show. Come on back next week when I sit down with Dr. Lauren Stryker, founding medical director of the Northwestern Medicine Center for Sexual Medicine and Menopause, and nationally recognized menopause expert. And 5 years into the show, 5+ years, I just wanted to sit down for a level setting conversation about menopause hormone therapy. And Lauren had so much insights and so many things to say. It was a tremendous conversation. So come on back for that one. And until then, as always, stay feisty. You've been listening to Hit Play, Not Pause, a feisty menopause podcast for active, performance-minded women. I'm your host, Celine Yeager. The show is edited and produced by the strong, talented, and amazing women at Live Feisty Media. Follow us on social media at Feisty Menopause. And please help us spread the word. Screenshot and share this episode on your social media channels with the tag @FeistyMenopause. Share the show with your friends. And please subscribe, like, review, and rate this show wherever you get your podcasts. Word of mouth and good reviews make it easier for other listeners to find. Thanks for listening, and as always, stay feisty.